You know, it's very weird, right? Because I knew this movie was gonna fucking flop just from the trailer alone, and I know this is like an art that most people like. Some people are just incapable of comprehending how I would know if a movie would fail before it's even out. And it was for a few reasons, right? One, because it's an adaptation of a video game, which rarely does good, at least nowadays. Because the point is to race swap, the point is to hire grandmas, the point is to do literally everything but what the game's intended on being, which is an action game, which has violence and loot and fan service. And it's like, okay, which demographic likes that? Well, young adolescent men. But nowadays, what young adolescent men like is haram, right? It's very, very, very bad. And if you like it, they like to they act like you're defective. Like they act like the way media used to be in like the early 2000s is evil. And I think this game came out in like 2008 or 9. But any game, anything that came out in that era, that very a long time ago, is evil. And Borderlands was one of those IPs that came out then. And nowadays, the point is to remove everything that made and not the IP, everything that makes the game, the movie, the TV show, what the intended audience want from it. So they hire the grandmas, you know, they race swap, they hire nothing but popular actors, like no new actors. And it's also, again, an adaptation of a game that if you've played the game, you already know what it's supposed to be. They spoil everything in the trailer. It's like the game, it's like the movie's not for people who like movies or like the game. The movie just is just meant to exist to, I don't know, I guess be a tax write off. And have Kevin Hart. But unfortunately, that no longer sells IPs anymore, right? And maybe it used to. Is like there used to be IPs that had popular actors. There used to be movies that had popular actors, and based off that, like Thor. I remember when the Thor movies, like single women everywhere would see Marvel specifically to see the actor that plays Thor. You know, before they made him fat and apathetic. Same thing with the Hulk. You know, before they made him a pussy, right? So, and based off this criteria, I knew that it was going to flop, right? Because what people want is something new. Like, if it's a remake, a remaster, a prequel, a sequel, or an adaptation of a different media that exists in the past, like, it's already in hot water for me. But I mean, I might give it a pass, but with all this other criteria, it's like, yeah, no, this is gonna flop. And apparently it did, right? Apparently it literally has a 0% on Rotten Tomato. Like, I don't think a single person liked this movie. On Friday morning, around the critic score 7% and the audience score 48. Now, and this is weird because usually you'd have the critic score high and the audience score low, or the critics score low and the audience score high. You know, there's a little bit of a disparity. But I think this is one of those where the critics and the audience both agreed that this was a garbage movie. What was changed behind the scenes might explain. Again, changes behind the scenes. Like, I knew off the bat this was going to be garbage. But let's try to see what changes behind the scenes, right? Because I haven't really read this article. Based on Beloved Game Star and two Oscar winners, Borderlands should have been an easy win for movie studios Lionsgate, but debuted with a Rotten Tomatoes critic score of 0%. As a fan, critics trashed the film. Yeah, again, beloved game. Just because something was popular in the past doesn't mean it's popular now, especially in times like today where you're literally not allowed to make good movies. Like, one criteria that I believe that, you know, holds the potential of it being a great movie is you should be allowed to offend. Like, this is a risk, right? It's a risk that should exist. Like, it used to exist back in the past. And you got Grand Theft Auto. Like, you got some fucked up games like Manhunt, right? Like Postal. But you also had some damn good games like Half-Life, Fear, the first one, and, Halo. Like, the risk to offend, right, is what made art, because offense is an emotion. Like, if you're not offended, if you don't care, you're not interested. If you do care, then you are, right? Well, this is one risk that companies like, not only are companies not wanting to do this, like, it is imposed that you should not offend under any circumstances, unless I guess it's right wingers, because again, the culture shift, it is okay to offend a right winger, because again, people act morally and they impose morally on everybody else. But again, you should be allowed to offend to make good art, even if offense is the point. Like, I'll take it one step further. If the point is to offend, what makes you think there's not a good story there, right? But anyway, it's like you're not allowed to offend. Okay, but you're also not allowed to make something new. Like, you're not allowed to take risks, and you have to have you you have to make you can make a certain group of people pissed off, right? But not others, and this is something I don't understand, right? Because at the end of the day, it no longer becomes a product anymore. It just becomes, I guess, a vehicle to push ideology. And even, I don't know if Borderlands is one of those, but you see the ideology again. You see the race swap. You see the grandmas being in here. You see them doing everything in their power, to remove sexuality. And again, in a beloved game that was for young adolescent men that has action, you have the geriatric squad. It's like, I see. The movie follows a ragtag bunch of humans searching for a vault full of super weapons hidden in the post-apocalyptic world of Pandora. When it debuted in 2009, the video game was an immediate hit, spawning two sequels that were equally loved by fans. I know Borderlands 2, in my opinion, was fucking amazing, right? Because it just took everything that one was and it built upon it and had one of the best villains. I don't know about 3, but hey, if people like 3, whatever. Randy Pitchford, who is a fucking weirdo, CEO of Gearbox, the company that created Borderlands, told Entertainment Weekly in July he started talking about making a movie adaptation in 2011. Again, this was like, what, 13 fucking years ago? Right? Maybe if it came out in 2015, and I don't know. Again, it was, culture shifts so fucking fast, because even media in 2014, 2015 was good, right? 13 years later, the movie was released theater Friday and stars A-lists including Kate Blanchett, Jamie Lee Curtis, Jack Black, and Kevin Hart. But the casting wasn't enough. Wasn't enough to it. But the casting wasn't enough to it. One critic said it was insult. It was an insult to gamers, movie lovers, and carbon-based life forms. I mean, yes. Because again, the point is to just shovel out slop, right? It's like all, movies aren't for moviegoers, games aren't for gamers, you know, comic books aren't for like comic enjoyers. Like Western entertainment is putting out entertainment that's not for the audience. And people are figuring this out, right? And they're moving away. Even if they can't articulate the fact that this is happening, like one thing that I argue is a removal of masculinity, right? Because again, it's just one of the benchmarks, and I point this out. People get spurred out at me, and what it tells me is, I guess I'm onto something, right? I mean, they have this vitriolic reaction. People who do not play games, who do not watch movies, but they are the first to tell me, "Oh, I'm wrong. I'm just a coomer. I'm just this, that, and the other." He's like, "Okay, what you're telling me is okay. I'm onto something. Like I am correct in my assertion, and you know this is happening too. You're just okay with it." And it's like, okay, so you remove masculinity from movies and games. It's not going to remove it from society because it's something that just exists and it seeks out masculine things. If you remove it from movies, it'll just go elsewhere, right? It'll go to anime or like to South Korean or Chinese entertainment or Bollywood. I mean, if you remove these things, it'll just seek something else out. And I guess this is what they want, right? It is what Hollywood wants. It's what, you know, game companies want. Because they don't want the consumer. They don't want gamers anymore. They want, I don't know, investment money. While others wonder if it was the worst movie of the year. I'd say it probably was. Again, I knew this was going to flop before the movie even came out. Some critics, some critics question why Oscar winners Blanchett and Curtis starred in an offbeat, mediocre action film with, well, I mean, because obviously because they get paid either way, right? Like they're Oscar winners, like they made their half a mil or over half a mil, so it's like, why the fuck not? With 57 reviews on Friday morning, the film still only had a 7% on Rotten Tomatoes critic score and 4 positive reviews, while the audience score was a disappointing 48%. Lionsgate will be wanting to make some profit back on the 110 million to 120 million deadline estimate is spent on the movie, but that could be tough considering the response. Yeah, again, and they put in hundreds of millions of dollars to make something that, hell, even they knew was going to flop, right? Like, let's be honest. But they banked on a game made, what, 13 fucking years ago? Even Borderlands as a game franchise has went downhill. I know 3 people did not like. I mean, people were fine with 2. I like 2. People were okay with 1, and the pre-sequel wasn't bad. But I know 3 and Tiny Tina's Wonderland were hot garbage. Many fans of social media blamed Eli Roth, the film director and co-writer, for his failure. I don't care about all of this. I mean, the problem is the culture we're living in. Like, you are not allowed to make good movies or good games, or at least games for your targeted market. If your targeted audience is young adolescent males who like sex and violence, you are not allowed to make a game for that. You are not allowed to make a movie for that, right? And if you try, it will get boycotted by people who do not play games, who do not watch movies, but they're on this ideological battle against things they don't like. And if you do that, like again, we see this with Stellar Blade, right? You are not allowed. And I guess Stellar Blade is a game, but It's about the same idea. Well, what's a better example? What was that Sounds of Freedom movie that people boycotted for some fucking reason? And again, it was made to. Again, I've watched, like, there's been movies and TV shows like that in the past, and I'd say Songs of Freedom. Like, I'd say that movie absolutely got it down, and it gave you a legitimate emotional reaction to the movie, but it was boycotted, right? Like, you are not allowed to make good entertainment in the West. Now, if you're a foreign company, right, you can, right, and it might get boycotted. Again, I'm going back to the whole Genshin Impact, Stellar Blade idea. What happened to those products or games? And it's like, you know, they might come after you, they might not. And by they, again, I mean people who are on this, who have daddy issues and are on this ideological battle against things they don't like. And they go clickety clack on the keyboard. And again, they want to become between you and the fucking consumer. They want to come between me, a grown ass adult, and the things I like to, the games I like to play or the movies I like to watch, and be like, no, you are not allowed to watch this. And that's where the beef with me comes from, right? That's where the beef that's where I come in, right? And I guess there's people who just don't care, but they refer to their ideology on this. So if their ideology says this is bad, they'll be like, well, god damn it, I guess I have to say it's bad too, right? And again, Americans think this way. This is the one thing about Americans that I, an American, look at and is like, oh God, please, for the love of God, stop. It's taking the ideological stance on things that you legitimately don't fucking care about. And this is why, again, this is why they believe that things like Stellar Blade, like they say, oh, the majority, they try to tell you that everybody thought Stellar Blade was a bad game, when in all actuality, the millions of people, like it was overwhelmingly positive. And again, this is of the people who actually played the game. They're trying to tell you that, oh, because there's a fictional country in Genshin Impact that's effectively supposed to be Africa, and the tiny, small, radical individuals on Twitter go clickety clack and try to boycott, and then voice actors try to also boycott the game, even though the game's an overwhelming success, made millions of dollars. There are people who still want to come between you and the things you want to fucking enjoy and the games you enjoy. And it's odd with the Genshin Impact situation because the very same people who were boycotting the game were also playing the fucking game. It's like, what in the fucking Looney Tune ass shit is this? So yeah, and this is what I'm trying to say. You are not allowed to make good entertainment anymore. Unless, I guess, you're from another country outside of America. The WGA website now lists, what the fuck is this? Don't care. And let's read some of the fucking comments, shall we? If there are any comments. Like, some of these sites are weird because they'll have all this advertising bullshit that I don't care about. And no comments. Okay, again, what I'm trying to say is I'm not fucking surprised that this flopped. Like, I knew it was gonna flop. And many people knew it was gonna flop. Every time we'd go to the movies and we'd see the Borderlands fucking, the trailer, it would be like, oh yeah, this is garbage. And that's really all I gotta say about this. Peace.